It's all about anything. This is Cebcast. Welcome to Cebcast. Today is April 24th, 2022, and this episode was taped on this day. This is episode 2, and as promised in the last episode, we'll have 3 points today. So, quick talk. Considering I talked about Perler last episode, I just want to say, can we have some discontinued items back? More on Cebcast. There'll be times in those topic filled segments. I at times promote my other work, and I talk about it. And let me promote something. So, I have another podcast to make. And it's called Gotta Catch the Cast. And it's basically this podcast, but just Pokemon only. That's right. Please check it out when the first episode comes out if you're a Pokemon fan or just curious. And let's head to point 1. Point 1. Today, I have learned about the news that Cebcast, who by the way is Filipino, will do a sketch comedy show on Omni called Abroad. And it's today. If you don't know who she is, she's an actress here, done stuff for 20 to 22 minutes in Air Force, and she's basically a mix between Maymay Entrata and Phoebe K. Fernandez. And if taga Sabuca, you know who Phoebe K is. My paranormal romance, my Umbut na Kapamilya Sabado, that Phoebe K. It'll be awesome considering this will be, I believe, the first Canadian TV show centered on a Filipino. And probably second gen had that too. We've had Filipinos on Canadian TV. Son of a Crutch with Richie Perez, played by Mark Rivera. The Filipino grandma who is a food delivery girl for Skip Less Dishes. And 22 Minutes, which by the way is played by Canadian herself. And I'm still waiting for news about Jokoy's Easter Sunday movie and the Joseph series. I think it's cool to see stories about my culture on TV, and I'd like to join with fellow Filipino people like her outside our country to put more Filipino representation in the media. Which, by the way, in the next segment, I'll tell a bit of a story from my childhood back home. But before we head to point 2, let's talk about question of the day. So in the last episode, question of the day, I asked if you are chicken per. I'm sorry. I asked if you are a chicken tenders person or a corn dog person. As of now, I have 3 comments. One user, Memory, all caps, says, I'm for sure a chicken tenders guy, while the other, Dominic, all lowercase, not to mention he's actually my best friend from back home, and still is to this day, says that he hasn't tasted corn dogs, but he didn't say if he's a chicken tenders or a corn dog person. Keep the comments going, and this episode's question of the day is, have you ever had that one teacher or principal or anyone with a teaching job at school that you get scared of so much because he or she is a tough yeller? That's what I'm going to talk about in point 2. Oh, and one more thing before point 2. Comment of the day. There's not much comments here, but the same Dominic put 3 hearts in his comment, which counts as today's good comment of the day. Now, let me talk about my own childhood, well, some parts of it in point 2. So I've had that one person before. He was a guy, and he was then the Student Affairs Officer, for which I have no memory of how it works today. It was back in 2015. I was in 5th grade then. I started to do well in school, to the point where I had less mistakes, but I started worrying about my classmates doing a lot of stuff that always angers the teachers. And now that I'm back to face-to-face learning, I'm 17 by the way. Now that I'm back to school, I think that kind of worries back. But I'm not worried about that anymore. And that made me a killjoy towards my classmates back then. Back in 2015, the school years in the Philippines started in June and ended in March. But by the time I left in 2018, the start of school started in August and ended in May. And also in my school back home in the Philippines, we had class officers where normal students are assigned to do classroom duties. Well, students who are not class officers also have classroom duties too, except the only classroom duties they do is clean the classroom at the end of the day. Class officers have different jobs. You've got the president and will be in charge of the class if the teacher is not around. Then the vice president who will take over the president's duties when the president is not around. The class monitor who monitors down the unruly boys and is a boys' school. The treasurer who collects money during fundraising activities. The peace officer, which is there to stop fights in the classroom. The custodian who unlocks the classroom doors at the start of the day and locks it at the end. And other class officer jobs like liturgy corps, and it was a Catholic school, who are assigned to do the readings in mass and athletic beadle, who are assigned duties related to sports. And in my 5 years of schooling at that school, I've been peace officer in grade 4. Liturgy corps in grade 4, peace officer in grade 5, treasurer in grade 6 and 7. Hold on, where was I? Also in the school, the big boys, that is the grade 10. Some of them are student marshals who have duties to report other students for unruly behavior. And my school is one of those schools that has CAT officers, which is also grade 10. Also in my school, we had the radio club, but not the DJ and music kind, but the walkie-talkies kind. We had orientations for the class officers, but the liturgy corps and athletic beetle weren't invited. So back to the topic. That guy who was a student affairs officer, he was a tough yeller. The first time I knew about him was on that particular day, and I still remember that day. During lunchtime, I went to the library only to be stopped by the high schoolers who are part of the radio club. I didn't know what's going on. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to go to the library. So I waited for something good to happen. But suddenly that student affairs officer, or SAO officer for short, and let's name him Sir W. So Sir W came with a bunch of CAT officers, and I don't know how to describe this, but Sir W told them to get those names who did that unruly behavior. And I was told by a fellow schoolmate who also got caught, but didn't do anything wrong, that I have to put my name on that list of students who did something unruly, or else I'll have even more punishment. So I did. And it turns out the reason why they needed those names is that they were catching students who were eating in the library. Yeah. Oh, and during that, Sir W talked with another teacher who was a girl, and that teacher, I talked a lot with her, that we were almost friends because I don't friend teachers. And I thought that she was part of that operation, so I gave her a week-long silent treatment. And from then on, I started to shy away from Sir W. I told my parents about what happened, that my grandparents and my mom were... I'm sorry, wrong context, but I told my parents about what happened. About what happened. My grandparents. Dang it. I told my parents about what happened, that my grandparents and my mom were living in Canada at that time and still living here with me. As I was saying, my grandparents talked to Sir W, and Sir W apologized for what happened. I was supposed to be there, but I told my grandparents because I was doing a group project with my classmates, which I believe didn't happen. My grandparents, or in this case, Lolo and Lola, think it was just an excuse not to see him. I also found out that Sir W was our new SAO officer because the last one retired. As time went on, I started to get scared of him, that I didn't want to go near him because, again, he was a tough yeller. In the orientations for the class officers, when some of my classmates were going to their seats, Sir W told them to hurry up and even said shut up to them. Finally, I had the courage to say hi to him. He said hi back. He was nice. I wasn't scared of him anymore and started to not worry about him, but a few months later, Sir W stopped working in that position anymore. I don't remember if he got fired or he resigned, but he's not there anymore. For me, that is a fun story to tell. That's it for episode 2. Please stay tuned for episode 3. Thanks for listening. Cebcast, it's all about anything. A presentation of the Periwinkle.